Yo, you tryna cook up some soul? I got you, let's break it down.
When it comes to R&B, some artists just hit different, and Isaiah Falls is definitely one of them. His music that has that smooth and sensual vibe instantly pulls you in. And behind that is the producer, building those lush chords and dreamy melodies and soulful textures that make everything come together. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make melodies that capture that same energy, the Isaiah Falls vibe. Type that will make his music feel timeless. Okay, so we're in FL right now, and the first things first, what I want to do is break down the chord progression, right? And with that, let's do it. So what I did, right, I went and grabbed the piano from Contact, and that piano name is Piano in Blue, right? So then what I did was I picked my scale. Let me mute this. I picked my scale, and that scale was C sharp minor, right? And then now I laid down a note in my scale, which was this note, and then I built a triad, right? But in R&B, they mainly use 7th and 9th chords, and I'm gonna show you what that means. So a 7th is basically a triad, but with an extra note on top, right? That's as simple as it gets. And it sounds like this, right? And the next chord, I built it off the same way by starting off with a triad and just placing a note on top. And it just sounds like this, right? And this one right here is a diminished chord, right? And I built it off with a triad, but I ain't like how that sounded. It sounds good, don't get me wrong, but I wanted it to have tension because I wanted it to build up to the next chord. So I lowered it down, like within the scale, one note. You see, there's a lot more tension, right? And for this one right here, I did the same thing. I started off with a triad, I added a 7th, and then I made it a 9th by adding one more note on top. So it sounds like this, right? And this embellishment right here, it's nothing too crazy, y'all. All you gotta do is select everything, press Alt S after you dragged it over, and then pitched it up, right? And all I did was delete a few notes. Well, as you can see, I didn't even delete a few notes. So this is how it sounds. Just an embellishment. And then this one right here is another 7th. And then this one right here is a 9th. I wanted it to build back down so that it can transition back into the diminished chord, right? And then this one, I practically just copied it over, and I wanted it to sound different, right? So I placed a note on top, right? And as you can see, I just worked within my scale. I didn't do nothing different. There's nothing special about this chord progression. I'm a piano roll producer, y'all. So if I can do it, you can do it. I barely know a thing or two about the keys for real. And then for this one, I just copied it over and I deleted some notes and I pitched up the middle notes, and I did an inversion, right? And I built some notes on top. That's practically it. Now let's get into the next instrument, which is the Rhodes. right? All I do is layer, right? And this Rhodes can be found in the Purple Skies Bank by Lifestyle Did It. The name is Silence. And with this Rhodes, I didn't want it to be too bright. I wanted it to sound mellow because I was planning on adding something over it that was brighter. Right? And I just have a few passing notes, which are these. Nothing too special. And this is the effect on the piano. I have it off. This is the effect on the piano. I have a Valhalla Vintage Verb. I could just copy the preset. Ooh. I have Fruity Balance, right? This is because when I play the keys, when I click in the keys, I like to lower it down, the velocities, right? Because when you play softer, it sounds more beautiful, like how if you was to play the real keys, right? So I boosted the gain up because it was too soft, and I boosted this up right here, right? Because it was still too soft. Sometimes if it's that soft, I'll boost it even here. But at that point, raise at the velocities. You know what I mean? Ain't no reason for you to be doing all that. But the next effects that I have on the Rhodes are Valhalla Vintage Verb. I just lowered the mix down, the pre-delay, and the decay, and I raised the low cut up. You could just copy the preset if need be. And the next instrument is a tape mellow, and I just put the preset to subtle width. I mess with nothing else, and I turned down the noise, right? Okay, so for the tape mellow, right, I lowered the mix down and that fell to 52% because I didn't want it to be too taped out, if you get what I'm saying, right? So next, what I have is a snap, right? And it sounds very ambient. All I have is a Valhalla Vintage Verb default preset, and I lowered the mix down to 60%. And I EQ'd out the highs so that it wasn't too bright, right? Because this is how it sounds without the EQ. And I ain't like that. I wanted it to be more mellow, so I EQ'd out that high, and it sounds like this, right? So next thing I have is, I believe, the bass. Yeah, the bass. So with this bass, you gotta make it groovy. Like in his song "Love Me or Not," right? It is a very groovy bass. It sounds very nice, y'all. And I ain't make it that groovy, but this right here, it has some bounce to it. That's nasty. But yeah, so that's practically it. And when you're making these basses, you gotta mess with the velocity. You can't make a real bass and not mess with the velocity, right? So, because you don't play the note the same. Next, I have a string, right? I'll get into the bass effect, don't worry. I have a string that I found in Triton. It's called the Largo string. Right? And all I did was layer, and I deleted some passing notes, and I left one, but I deleted the most of them. So for the bass, right, I have a fruity chorus, and this right here is the fat clean preset, right? It makes the bass more deep, right? It goes deeper. Pause. It goes deeper, but this is how it sounds without it. This is how the bass sounds without it, y'all. You see, it's not deep enough. It's not deep enough. but with the pretty chorus, you see what I'm talking about? It goes low now. Like, it makes it sound more full. What I mean by deep is not in octaves. I'm talking about like it makes it more full in your ears. Next is for the strings. All I have is a vintage verb on there, and I lowered the mix down, lowered the pre-delay down, and I raised the low cut up to 650. Next thing I have is a pad, right? And this pad can be found in it can be found in Lacris's and No Reply's 90s R&B's Essentials kit, the analog lab bank. Jesus, I just butchered that. The analog lab bank, right? And it's called Deep Space. Sounds very nice. There wasn't too much high frequencies, and I like that because I wanted to keep a very low aspect of it. Right, all I have on this one is a vintage verb, 25.2%. Lowered it down, and I have the pre-delay. I believe the rest is stock. Yeah, the rest is stock. So you could just copy the preset if need be, but you don't really need to do that. And then I have a pan so that you can pan from left to right. But I want it to be panning all the way, so I have on this one I use the left to right shy, right? Because I want it to be panning all the way to the left and sliding all the way right back to the right. I just want it to sound full in your ears and have some movement. Next is another pad, and this pad right here is from Peculiar Sound, and it's the Dube Sine 2, the Dube Sound Sine 2, and it's from Peculiar Sounds by Doobie Powell, if that's his name. I probably butchered it or something, but this is how it sounds. Right, and all that I did is layer. As you can see in this melody, y'all, there's nothing that I did that's special. All I did was use instruments and I layered them, right? And the effects on that one is a Valhalla room. I messed with the mix and lowered the decay. A parametric EQ, because I ain't like the high frequencies, and this is how it sounds without it. You can hear there's a high frequency right there, but I didn't want that, right? So I EQ'd it out because I wanted it to be mellow. Next is a chorus, and I believe this is the default preset. Yeah, it's the default preset, and I ain't touched nothing on there, and I just lowered the mix to 20%. And then I have a Valhalla delay default preset. Next is the guitar, and with this guitar I tried to emulate what I heard a song had.
Baby, you got me searching. You even listening? Baby, you got me looking for love in places it just don't exist, baby.
They played a very nice wah guitar, but this won't sound as perfect because they did a very great job, but it gets the job done, y'all. And this is how it sounds. This is how the guitar sounds without effects. Right, nothing special at all. And with these instruments, they're dry, right? But that's why you gotta add your sauce, y'all. You gotta add your sauce. You gotta add flavor to it. So I just used the auto wah because I heard his songs, they have that wah guitar.
I know you've been through a lot.
Right, I just played 2 examples, but they have that wah guitar that sounds very nice, and I wanted that, but I can't use the wah. Right, I can't play the guitar that well, so I just used this auto wah right here. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done. Right, and then I have a delay eternal, and I just mess with the timing, and I have a Valhalla vintage verb. This is the default preset. It's set for the pre-delay and low cut. And I also lowered the mix down to 38%, right? Next is some strings. I found this one in Expand. And it's called the Legato Whole Tone Trills. Sounds like this. Right, very beautiful, y'all. Very beautiful. And with that, I have a Valhalla vintage verb default preset on there. Next is this Sine Lead, right? And I found this one in Diva. It's called the MK Sine Lead. Right, nothing special. I just wanted it to have some type of melodic aspect to it. Right, and with the effects that's on this, I have a delay eternal default preset. Didn't mess with anything. I lowered down the mix to 61%. I put a fruity flangus on it so it can have that like chorus type sound, that grungy aspect, if you get what I'm saying. It's like this type of modular aspect that it gives to it. And let me just show y'all. This is without it, and this is with it. Y'all hear that? It's like a kind of modular sound that it gives to it. And next I have is a shimmer, right? This is without it, and this is with the shimmer. Oh, effects are off. Let me turn off the other effects. Y'all hear that little bright sound in the back? Like, it's not meant to be out in the open, but you just hear it. I just wanted it to fill some spaces up. And that's what I did with this melody. I ain't do too much, as in I ain't go over the top with the keys. You know what I mean? I ain't do no top line or anything like that. I just filled in the gaps using other instruments, and I layered. And that's something you can do with these melodies. It allows you to do that. It's not just about, oh, I have this beautiful keys, right? You can also layer sounds together. That makes a sample beautiful. Now I have this guitar. I have it from Splice. Sounds like this. Right? And this one right here, I didn't like how it sounded at first, if I'm gonna be honest, because it sounded beautiful, but it had that slap percussion, like that slap on the guitar that you do when you play, and I didn't like that at all. So I thought about deleting it, if I was honest, but you know, the Lord did His thing. He gave me an idea, and I just EQ'd it out, right? I EQ'd it all right, and with that EQ, it sounds like this. Right, but without it, it sounds like this. Like, just that percussion just sucked, bro. Like, why? And I also added some Valhalla vintage verb, just mess with the mix and low cut. And I also merged it because I didn't want it to be too out in the open, right? I want it to be in your ears. I didn't want it to be the main sound. Although it's one of the main elements, I didn't want it to like be bright, if you get what I'm saying. The next thing I have is another guitar. Right? And with this one, I merged it as well. This one 80%, the other one was 100%. And I have a fruity filter, right? And with this fruity filter, I have it on the tiny speakers preset, right? Because I wanted it to sound different. I didn't want this in your ear. I didn't want this to be outspoken as well. By outspoken, I mean like stereo type vibes where you can hear it as one of the key elements and it's the loudest thing there. I wanted it to be in your ears and compacted, right? So with that, I added the tiny speakers preset, and I also added a merge to it, right? So that means I made it more mono sounding, right? And I also added a Valhalla vintage verb, and this is the default preset, and I messed with the low cut. This is it with the effects. Well, I will show y'all with the effects. Let me show y'all without the effects. Right? So, next things that are the background sounds. Background sounds and fillers in these are very important, right? Because they fill in the empty gaps, especially in this sample right here where I didn't do nothing special but layer. These are the main elements that fill in the empty gaps, bro. So you gotta find a kit, whether it's off who I think Loner got some, right? Yeah, Loner, and some. Just do your research. Do your research on YouTube, watch different tutorials, and you gotta get some kits on Splice or wherever, and just to get some background sounds, because these are very important. Like this one, right? And all I have on this one is a, I believe, oh, I don't have nothing on this one. It was already, it already had effects on there. Now all I did was pan it and I lowered it. And for this one right here, right, it's like a little rattle effect. And all I did was add a reverb, a default preset, and I lowered it, the mix down to 41%. For this one right here, it's not even in the mixer, so that means I didn't even add nothing to it. All I did was lower it using the gain knob that's in the playlist. Next is some chimes. You can never go wrong with chimes, y'all. Just beautiful and fire. And with that, I just added a, I believe, Valhalla vintage verb. Yeah, and mess with the mix. Next is this thing. Holy, this thing right here, bro, I use it religiously. When I tell you religiously, I use it almost with every one of these melodies. And I found it on Splice. And you can tell I use it a lot just by the way I have it saved. I have the sound saved to a kit just so I don't have to go to Splice every time and go grab it because it's a hassle. So this sound right here, bro, y'all gotta find it. Right? Well, I don't have nothing on it. I just lowered it. But bro, this sound, I'm so happy I found it. Next thing is a percussion loop I found from one of Only One's kits. Right? And with that, I just have a Valhalla vintage verb. Just copy the settings and a fruity chorus. Default preset, and I lowered the mix down to 31%. Right? And I lowered the volume as well because I didn't want it to be the main component. Like, I want you to feel it, not hear it, if you get what I'm saying. Next is this as well. Right? There's nothing on it. I just panned it to the right and I lowered the volume. And with these things too, y'all gotta use panning to your advantage. Especially if you use a lot of sounds and a lot of elements, you gotta pan some things. Otherwise, it'll just become too crowded because everything will be in the middle, right? So you gotta make it sound full by filling up both ears and the middle, right? So that's what I did, and I panned some instruments as well as the background effects. So that's why it sounds so full, and there's some things on your left ear, there's some things on your right ear, there's some things down the middle, so you get it from all sides. Pause. Right, and then this right here is just some background talking I got from Splice. Right, and you can get it by just searching up girl talking or background talks. And yeah, next, this is the real sauce right here. So this is the bass guitar slide that I did with my bass, right? And with that, in this song, it has some, right? And I heard that, and I was like, ooh, that's fire. So I wanted to do it myself. So all I did was I got my bass, I put my finger on the note, and I just slid it down. If y'all can see. Got the bass, put a finger on the note, I hit it, and I just slid it down. Right? Or you can go up with it. Right? One more key element for these is spacing. Right? So although I did cut out my beautiful melody that I had right here, although I did cut out this thing right here in the preview, although I did, oh my gosh, I cut that beautiful thing out, y'all. But pauses are very important, right? Pauses are very important. They allow to have more space, and it allows the instruments coming back in to hit harder, right? So I'm gonna have an example when I play this full preview, but pauses are very important. So if you could find some place to have some little chops here and there, like I did in here, right, that would be perfect. So although I did cut out some very fire stuff, hurts me still, but it was worth it, right? Because it sounds like this. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Also, let me know if you have any feedback on the tutorial and whether I should change something going forward. But for my first video, I think this was fire. And yeah, by the way, let me know also who I should do next. I'm thinking between SZA or another Isaiah Falls one, because this was pretty fire. The thing y'all see on the screen here is a Bible verse, right? So at the end of every video, I'm gonna have a Bible verse of the day that is willing to be some motivation to y'all or just something that could help y'all out, right? But that's practically it. And thank you for watching. And yeah, much love.